Good morning. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show, Red Pill Edition. My name is Leon Jones, and in this segment, I'm going to talk about ways that African American men can be successful. So, the title of this morning's video, Dear Black Men, you can be successful in many ways. Dear Black men, you can be successful in many ways. Now, of course, in the manosphere, you hear this talk about high value. Well, every man has a value. Some of us are trying to reach our peak. Some of us aren't. Now, my belief is this: you need a variety of every career. You need white collar, you need blue collar, and you need entrepreneurs. But when it comes to us as black men, we have been taught that we have to go to college. Now, again, college is just one avenue. But when you go to college, it depends on what you major in. Because at the end of the day, what you really want is ROI, return on investment. Now, a good avenue that could help brothers out is a number of us, and that includes myself, we need to run for office. And the reason why I say that, because when I look at what's going on now, a number of African American women are running for office, but a number of African American women's policies are socialist and communist and Marxist policies. A number of African American women are not into free market. Now, I'm not putting them down. That's just the way it is. But we brothers, regardless of which way we go, we have to believe in the capitalistic system. Now, when we deal with capitalism, unfortunately, there are going to be haves and have-nots. So, the secret to being successful is to find a niche. You got to have a skill. Some individuals are image consultants, people like me. I'm an engineer. A civil engineer is a white collar job, but I also work in the construction industry, and construction and HVAC is blue collar. I also have a Class B CDL. The more skills you have, the more marketable you are. But when you have value, you must have character and integrity. You want to treat people based on how they treat you. And one thing that I see in the African American community on a political side is if you have individuals who lean conservative, they tend to get the brunt of all the ad hominem attacks. Why? Because they've become free thinkers. As African American men, part of being successful is we have to learn how to communicate with each other. And one thing I notice about black people in general, many of us are very emotional. We don't wait till the facts come out. And as African American men, one must remember that we need to understand that the media is employing all of this monstrosity to keep us divided as American people. So, as African American men, what we have to do in order to be successful, We have to start thinking more logically instead of emotionally. Yes, is racism out there? Everybody has bias, but we can overcome that. Again, the way you do it is you have to look at yourself first. Many of us, as African American men, don't know ourselves. Now, again, you need all professions. We need African American men who want to be police officers. And I know the police get a bad rap. Now, I'm going to go off the topic for a moment because I just read some more information about Breonna Taylor. The individual who was a witness just changed his story. Now, when it comes to police officers, you have some bad cops out there. I respect police officers. The bad ones I don't respect. But here's something that nobody is talking about as well. I believe her name was Amy Geiger. She was a white police officer that walked into the house of an African American man in Dallas while he was eating ice cream, and she shot and killed him. She gets 10 years. Now, what if she gets out on good behavior? What's going on when it comes to African American men? We're being used for an agenda that doesn't care about us. Black Lives Matter is a Marxist organization. Black Lives Matter does not believe in the nuclear family, capitalism, patriarchy. Black Lives Matter believes the community should raise your kids. And when you hear the word community, that's communism or communal. But at the end of the day, Black Lives Matter is a feminist organization. LGBTQ organization. So, for all the individuals out there that are marching, you're doing it all wrong. If I had a protest against what's going on out here, I'm going to go to the source. Who's funding the movement? And see, the smart thing that Black Lives Matter and Antifa, what they're doing, they're getting children to do the work for them. Black Lives Matter and Antifa are a money scheme. And they're using black men and some black women to justify their cause. Because it really isn't about systematic racism. Because if we had systematic racism, we would not have a number of black mayors, black AGs, black police chiefs, black professors. Yes, this country has a long way to go in some areas. In some areas, a short time to make it. But when it comes to what's going on in this country, you have to believe that individuals are coming over here to become successful. Now, President Trump signed a $500 billion economic development bill for blacks. Now, individuals might say, well, it might not work. Well, the problem is when you sign a bill of that magnitude, the monies have to be distributed somewhere. And once the funds are distributed, the people who now have the funds have to allot them to the communities. There's a problem with that. Some individuals might keep the money for themselves, and when that happens, the black community, again, is not going to have any changes. But moving forward, know a number of individuals that talk about Breonna Taylor. What about the other people who died as a result of black-on-black crime in Chicago, in Baltimore, in LA, in Houston, in Cincinnati, in Cleveland, in Detroit, in Milwaukee, in New York, Miami, Charlotte, North Carolina, Boston, Buffalo, New York, Rochester, New York. Nobody is accounting for those people. They are also important. Now, I know there's bad policing out here. I gave you 2 incidents. But one thing that I have to go back with this Breonna Taylor case is this. Regardless of who she hung around with, I think what's going on in Louisville is very sketchy because the incident happened in March. So, of course, all the facts aren't there. And before we react to something emotionally, let's get everything out in the open. Now, sometimes when a decision is made, we might not like the decision. And as African American men, we have to stop being emotional because that kills our chance of being successful. We already have a hard road as it is, some of us. And that's because some of us have made bad decisions. Now, when you deal with police officers, now I know Minister Japp, and shout out to him, he talked about what goes on in Chicago. But I'm going to spin the other side of it because I live here in Indiana. And when I come home from Indianapolis or Richmond, Indiana, I go through small towns. Now, I remember last year I was stopped in a small town off of US 421 going toward Michigan City. And the town was called Monon, M-O-N-O-N, Monon. And I was going 74 and 55. Now, I didn't see the cop. But when I saw the lights come on, I pulled over. And when I pulled over, he asked me for all of my information. But the biggest question that cop asked me for, and that cop was a pretty short cop, pretty stocky, white cop, around 5'6". He looked like he could bench a Buick. But when he asked me for my information, I simply gave it to him. But when he asked me, why did he stop me? I answered truthfully. I was going 74 and 55. I was in a hurry. I was in a hurry to get to a meeting in Valparaiso at Ivy Tech. That's what I told him. And guess what? All he told me after that, after he ran my plates, he said, I'm not going to give you a ticket. I'm not going to mess up your driving record because you have a CDL here. But slow down. Now, I'm just one person. But when you're an African American driving through some of these small podunk towns, some of these cops, they are racist. They have been part of the Klan. But the way you handle it is not get emotional. And because I had nothing on my record, I wasn't worried about anything. Because I had all my documentation there. I obeyed all the commands. And from that day, I'm still living to produce this video today. Yes, you have some bad cops out there, but you have some good ones as well. But as African American men, we got to handle ourselves better. Because I can tell you, you have some brothers who get into the system, they're real tough until they have to go into that courtroom. And then when that judge puts that gavel down and says, you got 10, 15, 20 years for A, B, C, D, E crime, then the brothers break down and they start crying like a woman. Well, to tie into the success part, we brothers need to stay out of jail. Now, again, if you go to jail for a belief, like you're trying to revolutionize something, to make a change in policy, that's one thing. But when you go to jail for killing your own brother or your own sister, that's another thing. And when it comes to crime and policing, 80% of crime that's committed in big cities, 80 to 90% is black on black crime. And I know 8 out of 10 crimes in the big cities, which is black on black crime, don't get solved. And every time we kill each other, whether it is by murdering each other or aborting black men, we reduce the numbers of black men who could be judges, who could be police officers, who could be soldiers, sailors, and airmen, and engineers, and doctors. Many of us don't think about that because we're emotional. We're in the heat of the moment. But as black men, what we have to stop doing is being jealous of one another. A lot of us have come from different backgrounds. I don't care what political affiliation you are. You could be a Democrat, you could be a Republican. But if you want to participate in being successful, you have to have a niche. You have to have a skill. Again, going to college is good if you're going to major in something professional, like STEM. And I tell you all about that on my other channel, Mind of STEM. But you can go to the military. I served in the military. I was 17 years in the military. I'm proud to have served in the military. That's another way you can go. And if you go into the military when you're young, let's say 17, 18 years old, and you do 20 years, you still have time to create your own business or work in the corporate world. Now, in the corporate world, you have to dress a little differently. You have to speak a little differently. In the corporate world, it's more politics. I worked in the corporate world. I didn't like the corporate world. And what I did in the corporate world, I was a customer service representative. If you can get through the politics, you can make it in the corporate world. I prefer being in the white collar world as an engineer because there's no politics when it comes to engineering. But I also like the hands-on aspect to where I can apply the theory of an engineer to actually becoming an engineering technologist. But overall, when it comes to being successful as an African American man, you need to navigate yourself in a number of directions. There are a number of YouTubers out here who are doing pretty well. Congratulations to them. We need to support one another, and that includes myself. Now, here on the 401 Talk Zone radio show, I give you free content, and I don't have a problem giving you free content, but I do have a Cash App link. I also have a PayPal link, and I just got up my Vimeo link. Now, it's up to you on whether you want to donate to my channel, because what I will do with the money, if anybody donates to my channel, and shout out to Sweet Chocolate Mine, she donated $5, and I had another guy, he donated $5. I believe his name was Randy. He donated $5. Now, it's not much, but there are people who support my work. Now, I am not using YouTube as a career. What I'm doing is using it as a tool to deliver information to individuals that can't get information from mainstream media, because mainstream media wants to keep us stupid. You look at what's going on in the political realm. And as black men, part of making it is understanding the laws. Now, we may not agree with some of the laws, but we have to put ourselves into position so we can change these laws. Some areas that we need to get ourselves involved in is jury duty. There are a number of us who reject the form that tells us you need to come in and be part of a jury. Well, when you do not participate as a juror, once you're called upon, then you're losing out. Because that's a chance right there that we can see if the law is being applied fairly. Number two, we need to become individuals, whether it's on a grassroots level or actually running for office, to participate in government, because we can make a lot of changes if we apply ourselves. Blue collar workers, we need them. HVAC, electricians, truck drivers. Then we need our white collar workers, accountants, engineers, doctors, and lawyers. To build a community, you must have the men leading and the men being successful. Now, every man serves a purpose in a community. Now, one aspect as well, we need some men to become pastors. And when I talk about being pastors, I'm talking about men who actually believe in the Most High, men who actually see what's going on. Because the church used to be an area where we got together to look at policies. But the church has been a failure. The church has relegated itself to pimps in the pulpit utilizing black women to get their money. And when that happens, the pastors are going to cater to black women, even if the pastor doesn't agree with everything that a black woman says. They're paying him the money. But one must understand, as an African American man, even if you had a felony, and shout out to my brother Matt Coley, he did some time. He has his own trucking business. We can do it, but it takes a good attitude, good planning, smart and hard work. But most of all, it takes motivation from within here. You see, I can't make somebody do something. I can't make somebody happy. You have to come with that already pre-packaged. But what I can give you is my own advice from my own experiences to help you as a brother become successful. Now, when it comes to what you hear on YouTube in the black sector, and the black sector is a very small sector. And what I encourage brothers to do is step outside the black sector and get information from white YouTubers, Latina YouTubers. Look at how other men are utilizing this platform to become successful. Start doing other videos like do-it-yourself videos. Start utilizing this platform for other content. And if you have a Facebook account and a Twitter account, join some groups. Because if you're going to build a community, we have to be able to collaborate with one another. I know a number of us have come up hard, and it's difficult, but it's not impossible. But believing in one party that has not done anything for you is not going to make you successful. Now, I'm not saying the Democrats are all bad. It's the ones who are on the extreme left that do not care about black people. And if you look at BLM and Antifa, it's more white folk who really have white guilt, because the white liberal wants to keep the black man down. Because if you really look at the system elevates black women, and that's by design. That's to keep black men from being a threat. That's what's going on in this country. But a number of us don't see that because we are very emotional. We will go at each other instead of going at the real culprit. I hear white supremacy every day. But maybe we ought to turn around as black men and start with ourselves. Because there are a number of us who aren't wrapped too tight. There are a number of us who need counseling. But too many of us live in denial. A number of us argue and gossip like women. If you're going to be successful, you got to have a plan. You got to have coordination. You got to have financing. It's just like politics. Many of us aren't successful in politics because we don't know anything about politics. We believe everything that the media tells us. Brothers, the media doesn't care about us at all. And, you know, a black man that was shot, nobody's talking about. What about that individual who was 60 years old? He was shot in Milwaukee for holding up a Trump sign. I don't believe that crime has ever been solved. And see, when we are killing each other over senseless BS, then we will never make it. But as black men, we got to learn how to disagree with each other. But also we have to learn how to come to a common cause as well. Because we all have opinions. And it's good that we are all heard. When it comes to solving any problem, whether simple or complex, we need to learn how to brainstorm. Now, everybody here on YouTube, particularly in the small black sector, we see things differently. But just because somebody sees something differently from me, it doesn't mean that they aren't telling the truth. We all have different styles, and we have to acknowledge that. And as black men, we got to drop the ego. It's okay to be competitive, because as men, we have to be competitive. And in order for us as black men to be successful, we have to look at God first and then look at ourselves. Because what we are doing right now, we're basically doing a lot of talking. Now, I beat the streets just about every day, and I see what goes on every day. And you do not have to live in the hood. You can live in the suburbs. But no matter where you come from, you have to deal with people. You just have to utilize a different strategy if you live in the hood, or you live in the country, or you live in the suburbs. There are always going to be people who are going to put you down for trying to make it. But as a black man, we need to utilize our resources. And in the black community, we have $1.4, $1.5 trillion to spend, but we spend it on other people, other businesses who come into the black community instead of ourselves. we have to learn how to trust each other as customers and business people. And we have to stop with the attitude that one black man is better than the other. No. The bottom line, when it comes to being successful, we have to use common sense. We have to have a plan. It's just like politics. When I say we have to be well organized, well financed, and have a plan. If we have goals, realistic goals, then we will not have any problems. But right now, when it comes to black men's success, the problem's not white supremacy. The problem is us. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. Also, if you're looking for some STEM information, check my other channel out, The Mind of STEM, where I give you a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. And you can also check out my Blog Talk Radio Show, where I talk about these same type of subjects that I present on YouTube. Guest calling number is 215-383-5785. Now, if you can't find me on YouTube or Twitter, if you can't find me on YouTube or Blog Talk Radio, you can always find me on Twitter and Facebook. Also, the links are at the bottom of my video for my Cash App, PayPal, and Venmo if you want to donate. Now, I'm not asking you to do that. I'm going to keep my content free because I want to make sure you all listen to my message. All I'm asking you to do is just share and like my videos, because the information that I'm putting out is just as good as anybody else's. And at the end of the day, it's your future, it's your choice. So, I'm going to leave you with a little bit of this. Be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And if you're having a hard time making changes in your life, you got to look at yourself and say, look, if the shoe fits, wear it. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. But you can also change the shoe if you don't like the shoe. Again, I thank you for listening to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I'm going to say have a happy and gracious day. God bless you. I'm out.